Hi everyone who's watching us and who will be watching us later. I am Shreya Prakash. I'm the co-founder and CEO of FlexiBees, and we are here talking to the CEO of DesiCrew, Mr. Manivannan. And DesiCrew is a very interesting company. It's a huge scaled company, which is creating great impact in India today, creating jobs and livelihoods for rural communities and tier 2 and tier 3 towns, while at the same time delivering cutting edge technology and technology solutions to clients all over the world. So today we are here to talk to Mr. Money on how the Desi Crew idea came about, what the origin story is, and how they are going about skilling rural India. And I'm sure we'll all have a lot to learn from his experience with running Desi Crew. Hi, Mr. Money. Welcome to the webinar. Very happy to have you here.
Hi, Shreya, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having DesiCrew for this show.
Awesome. So, Mani, tell me a bit about Desi Crew. What is the idea behind it? How it came about? What has the journey been so far?
Yeah, I think we will probably need more than 1 hour to cover all of that, but let me just try and give you a 2-minute summary of that. Saloni Malhotra is our founder. She was a young engineering graduate from Delhi, born and brought up in Delhi for doctor parents, never seen a village in her life. But the entrepreneurial bug bit her when she heard a lecture from Professor Ashok Junjunwala of IIT Madras. So he was just fresh out of the telephony, which enabled the coin-operated phones in India, which was a revolution which went to the nook and corner of the country. So Professor was talking about how to leverage technology for villages. So Saloni started mulling about the three dots: the jobs, the technology, and rural India. So she came up with that idea saying that we could do something in villages where we can leverage the talent which is available. And if you look at the IT BPM industry, more than 60% of the talent comes from rural areas. They do migrate to larger cities. So basically, idea to see how we can leverage this talent pool without people having to go for jobs. Instead, technology will enable jobs to go to people, which is what we are seeing now in the COVID time.
Yeah.
Probably about we are 15 years ahead of time in terms of process.
Absolutely. Yeah. So amazing. I mean, this of course, Saloni and the mentors that she had, they were ahead of their time. When did you all start? When did she start the company?
Yeah, this idea was born around 2005, 2006, but it took for a while to get the confidence that actually it could be a viable business proposition. And she's not from BPM background, so I think for young people that's very important to note. She didn't have the domain knowledge, but she was very clear that the potential which was there in small towns and rural India could definitely match the rest of the world. And India's already proved at that time that the back office work has shifted from London and New York to your Bangalore and Hyderabad and Gurgaon and all of these places. So the question was that can we leverage it even further? Can we really move to panchayat villages and set up these centers and ensure that people are able to stick to the quality standards?
Right.
So there was a lot of challenges in the initial days in terms of infrastructure and clients' willingness to believe this model. I remember we did a lot of catwalks in the corporate India to convince the customer to part with their own hard-earned data and their processes so that these can be delivered in a very cost-effective way from these places. More importantly, from DesiCrew's point of view, we wanted to create a meaningful career path for people.
Yeah.
Because even today, when we speak about rural India, I think all of us who are following news and politics and economics would probably link about Manrega program. And yes, it is at a scale. It has reached 100 plus million households, gives about 70 million jobs. But the challenge which we forget, especially even the industry teams, that we have equal number of graduates in India looking for opportunities. And we don't have any program at that scale, either private or government. And these are educated folks who have grown out of the agricultural households, who probably do
Mm.
not want to go back to the farms, but very limited opportunities exist for this segment. And
Yeah,
DesiCrew is probably one among the few players who are actively working in this segment.
yeah, yeah. It's nation building, definitely. The work that you guys are doing, and that is what attracted me a lot to your company when I read about it. And what you said, 5 minutes ago, which is that the anyway 60% of the manpower that comes into these industries, into the IT industry, is from a rural background. That's huge. That's a very interesting insight, because now what you guys are doing is not just bringing jobs to them, which is definitely what you are doing, but also solving for problems like urban congestion and things like that, which it's the impact is multifold, across many different kinds of barriers to development that India today faces.
No,
Very interesting.
absolutely, Shreya. When you talked about the impact, I should also share that 70% of our workforce are women folks. So you can imagine the impact that will create in a rural household when the lady of the house is able to earn in commensurate with what her education is, and the impact it has on the neighborhood, and that's an example to the villages is immense. And
Yeah.
given the falling LPR rates and especially the gender issues in the job creation itself, even in private sector, so this is a huge lopsided numbers we have, which we are very proud about.
Yeah, yeah, you should be. I mean, this makes me personally very happy, of course, because we at FlexiBees are all about that. And there are so many studies which show that when women get jobs or women have financial independence and the agency that comes with it, it's not just the individual who benefits, but entire families, societies, communities that benefit from that. So yeah, it's multifold impact that you're creating, and kudos. And I know that DesiCrew today it one often thinks that when you're creating impact, the scale will be limited. But I know that DesiCrew today is a 1,500 member company. So maybe if you could talk a little bit more about how big you are and what are some of the benefits that your clients get from you, or your offerings in that space, that will also complete the picture.
Absolutely. I think we spoke about a lot on the supply side so far. But for any business, the demand side is very, very critical. And obviously, we don't sustain, we can't grow, we can't build an organization without the customers in the place. So for us, in the initial days, it was more of faith. Can I said like almost 4 or 5 years went in convincing customers about the infrastructure capabilities, then the training part, or even uninterrupted telecom and all of that. Though it took a while, I think the initial set of customers came in because it was a novel idea. They wanted to experiment and they were not sure whether this will succeed. So obviously they picked up the low risk processes and said, okay, we can try it out. And if this works, you guys can grow. So that's how we started. We are grateful for that. My first customer is still my customer. So it's clearly told us
Wow.
that it is not just about one customer or one process. We have changed the processes multiple times over. We've seen the entire mobile automation, all of this technology play come into the processes. Desi has not only survived, it has prospered in the new environment because we have set up the foundation right in terms of people, the process, and the technology. So you should also be happy to see some of our people who came in the first batch in a place called Kolumangudi are still with us. Some of them have become managers, some of them are still doing processes, but they've given a huge support because the immediate ecosystem, what they're exposed to, still do not create enough opportunities for their profile. So
Right.
coming back to customers, so initially it was more of peak demand servicing. So when customers had huge volumes, let's say in the fourth quarter of the year, and they didn't want to build a time, they didn't have time to build a team internally in Bombay and Chennai. So they said, okay, hi, can you guys manage this? So we took the overflow volume. A lot of digitization work happened, and we were able to meet the TAT and quality standards. So that's how we gained an entry. Then we realized that strategically it makes sense for us to partner with the larger BPOs who are already in tier one, tier two, and they have acquired customers. Like you said earlier, they're struggling with attrition issues in the large cities. And a lot of people don't think that it's a long term career. They think BPO is the first step of the career and they want to switch at the first opportunity and all of those. So we partner with some of the larger players. So we created alternate delivery centers for them where they would be able to get the processes and the client delivery would happen from the delivery centers in rural areas. And of course, the partner would stand in for the quality and other process control. So that's the second wave of DesiCrew, if I can call it. And we were invited by the industry, mainstream industry. We were known by this new term called impact sourcing. So we were doing already what it was before it was name was coined by the industry. But the entire ecosystem was very supportive. The NASCOM, the government, many of the state governments, including the central government, then launched specific policies to create rural BPOs or BPM centers in the rural areas with their
Okay.
policy. So that way, we had played a role in terms of showing someone that it is feasible to have people working from remote areas, but
Yeah.
working with clients who are the top of the league in the country and even abroad.
Brilliant. It's a true coming together of a lot of different kinds of upheavals happening, around the world. The digital ecosystem, of course, telephony that you guys anyway started with, which laid the foundation for digital, and a lot of, I guess, policy action being taken around creating jobs in these pockets. Yeah, great. So tell us a little bit about the supply pool. Of course, there is talent, but do you guys, and I know that you do, so why is it that you need to skill them, and how is it that you do indeed skill them?
Yes, so if you look at the equation in terms of sheer numbers, right? The last census says we have about 8% of the entire population are graduates. And you would know that many of the colleges, almost more than 60% of them, are actually located in rural areas. But when industry looks for talent, or when they say that people are not employable, or supply is not good. In fact, there was a time when IT industry was leading the recruitment, and the industry leaders were concerned that we're not producing enough talent to meet the demand. Right? So we realized that it is also probably because we're not looking at the right places, and we are not doing the bridge connectivity for people to walk in seamlessly and the way anybody would do in any campus in Bangalore and Hyderabad. So basically started working on this model where we will create exposure, we will create experiences for people where they're not able to just hone their skills, but they would also gain an exposure to the client directly. So that's how the model was evolved. So it is not a antiseptic, pure skill development programs without any context. See, for us, context, the content, and a lot of creativity. If I can summarize, these three are the three pillars on which we developed this program, and we call this DTouch.
Okay.
DTouch is DesiCrew's acronym, transforming our crewmates. Our people are called crewmates. DesiCrew transforming our crewmates for human excellence. So that's the
Okay.
DTouch part. It also lends itself easy on people's lips in terms of saying it.
Yeah.
So what it meant was, how do we combine the access part, which of course with post COVID has become completely online, but we have envisaged online much before that. And the reason was very different. It is not because that we could display our internet bandwidth. It is because the teachers or the faculty or the content providers, they were either unwilling to look at rural India or simply not there. So the demand, you can imagine, there are young graduates who want to learn something and come up in their life, but the service providers or the skilled people were actually looking elsewhere. They were servicing even more larger demand in urban cities. So that's when we
Right.
realized that it's important for us to create this gap. So what we went, like all the people organization do, we went back to our own people. So the delivery managers, the senior folks in the organization, they created the content. They became the faculty themselves. So then you can imagine the pressure it put on team in terms of their time and bandwidth. But we were very happy to do it because the young people who are coming out are able to not only skill themselves, but they're also able to do the delivery. So they're also able to get a peek into what's happening on the floor with the real
Hmm.
client, which doesn't
Right.
happen in larger programs. So that is the basis on which we started. So now it is, of course, grown into a number of courses and all of that we'll talk about. But that's the core
Hmm.
idea. So when people are looking at skilling, even large government programs, they were looking training as an end objective.
Hmm.
So we were looking at that as a means to an end, which is
Right.
a good, interesting career for people.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, of course, I completely understand the entire idea of the context to the training, and helping, at the end of the day, it is the delivery that matters. And actually, that is also, if you are focusing on that particular specific kind of niche which you guys are, then it is the best way to actually impart that training is to have that linkage of on the job. It's the best possible training ground. Uh, from what you're telling me, it seems as if the main gap that you are covering through the skilling is that of, say, poor education, for lack of, a better word, or education which is not industry aligned, or which leaves its graduates not employable. Where as opposed to, say, the skilling that. I thought, at least in my mind, and it's a huge myth. I think that's been shattered in this conversation, which is the skilling which may be needed for, say, the rural, graduates who need to be upskilled in order to be able to deliver what you need to your clients. But it looks like it's not the latter; it is the former. And basically, these graduates are the same as any graduates coming out of any city in India today. I mean, all of us have graduated, and many of us have felt unemployable. So it seems as if that is really the core of what you're skilling for.
No, no,
Is that
absolutely.
correct?
That is part of our core belief as well, Shreya. See, the talent or the talent density is much higher in our areas, geographically speaking, right? But if you look at what happens to a fresher in the IT BPM industry, they are molded for a long time, and a lot of these corporates need to invest till the gestation time is right for them to commercialize or monetize the benefits, right? We are no different in that, except that like we looked at the pool which is not being looked around by the mainstream
Yeah,
market, and
yeah,
and the belief that what can be done in New York and London, if it can be done in Bangalore and Hyderabad,
right.
it might very well be done in Kolumangudi and Kapu. So that's been a driver for us. And on the other side, which is probably not very visible when you look at hard skills, soft skills, and all these terminologies, I think the gaps in between. Like when you look at a person, you are looking at in total. So, for example, in our case, there are women who are married who have to obviously manage the work schedule as well as what she needs to at home. Now, where is the time and space for learning, right? So we realized that if we get the content available in a form which she can take it. So there
Mhm.
are real life examples where my team has come and told me, sir, after 10 o'clock, when my family has gone to sleep, 10 to 10:30, 10 to 11, I had done for almost continuously for 1 or 2 months. Now I'm done with my learning. I'm ready for the next process.
Mm.
And in our areas, people also before COVID used to spend a lot of time traveling. So, which is again a difficult thing to visualize because people do travel to two buses to reach where we are, and there's a time
Mhm.
which they spend and
Yeah.
where they can access bite level. I think the core thing is that we cannot give them an IIT lecture, right? It has to
Mm.
be a bite level consumption, and then you need to benchmark what is good at and then connect to the client. So that's how we've redesigned this program in such a way that it's
Mm.
just not the hard skills they do that. When we
Right.
assess people, when we realize that they need additional English or even sometimes logical thinking, so these courses
Mm.
are also available in the same platform.
Yeah.
So that's how the detach is adding value. So today we have done probably more than million hours in terms of man hours
Million
learned.
hours?
Yeah, because this I'm including the last 10 years. So the online and everything online is probably last 3, 4 story. But earlier we had the content online, then offline teaching and certification in a center and model. But if you look at the entire platform, it's that kind of a number we're talking about. And more importantly, the skill sets are matched to the customer demand. So today, if you look at our business side, right, we have digital skills, we have content delivery, and we also have AML support services. All of them are available in my platform. So right from if you want to pick up labeling, there is the course available. And if you want to do software testing, yes, that is also available. And the differentiation is that once you are done with the course, you are exposed to an international benchmark. So I'm actively asking all my teams to do the final certification only on an external world, because that's
Okay.
when you know how good you are, right?
Yeah.
So you might do supply side changes and creative solutions, but if you're not good at the end of the day by the customers or by the market,
Yeah.
it's not going
Yeah.
to help. And what we said was you have unlimited time. See, for us, the way it is, it's not a skilling program which is apart from your life in DesiCrew. Everybody has to learn, including the senior management, including myself. I have done courses on the same platform. What we do is we give some time, not more than means just couple of hours a week. So I've learned how to make bots because that's one of my business requirements right now. So we don't want to be outdone by the automation in the industry. So we are
Yeah.
teaching our own people how to make bots. So there are a lot of youngsters who are learning there. And of course, when I learned in college, bots was not there. So I thought this is a good opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to do these thrill you get when you make your first program yourself was really very good.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
it's part
I'm
of data. Data is part of DesiCrew.
detached. Amazing. And do you plan to open your platform to people who are not part of your ecosystem?
Yes, there have been a lot of conversations around it. Actually, we've spoken to Tata's and some of the government organizations. So we are talking to them to ensure that the context is not changed too much. Because if they think that if I learn this content, I'm going to get jobs, then I'm not sure we can guarantee that as a thing. And in India, a lot of changes have happened on the skill development program over the years. Initially, it was just the training. Then there's a training from placement. Now the onus is shifted on the learners. So there's a lot of multiple models which are coming out in the market. So we are very happy to collaborate with people as long as the context is clear and there is a fair amount of learning which people can take from our model. And our we are now multilingual. We have people who can speak in almost all languages in India. So yeah, I think we are ready for that kind of a voyage, but certainly not going to be our focus. Still remains how do we
Right.
leverage to grow DesiCrew, but we
Yeah.
are happy.
Yeah, of course. It's like it's the Amazon model. I mean, you build something for your internal, business delivery, and then you're able to sort of rent it out and monetize it, and more importantly, have others also draw from the wealth and the experience that you've created. Tell us a little bit about any challenges that you had early on when you started the skilling program, and how it is that you guys overcame it. Especially if there's anything around the context of your the supply pool or the talent pool being largely in smaller cities or smaller towns, villages. It'd be very interesting to know.
Yeah, that's a good question because when we started out, a lot of awareness was not there even among the colleges. See, today, if you look at many of the colleges, they do a finishing school kind of a model, or at least for the final years, they prepare themselves for the campus interviews and give them additional skill sets, how to present yourself, communication skills, and so on. 10, 12 years back, that was very limited. A lot of colleges were not focusing on those kind of skills. So it became even more difficult for us when we take people into our system directly who are not exposed to this kind of model. So we had to adopt for our own immersion programs where we had some excellent creative trainers who used to physically go, because this is not virtual yet. So they used to go to our locations, spend time with them, understand their background, and then start them to learn some of the skills which we want them to learn. And we were
Mm-hmm.
fortunate enough to start with some of the best in the world in terms of customers. So whether it was Google, whether it was ICC Prudential, all of these guys had excellent standards, and processes evolved internally. So it was, and then they had tools, online tools at that time. So it became a very motivating experience for people to learn new things and to excel at
Yeah.
something which they have not been exposed in their college. So the challenge was that I keep saying the content and the faculty were still missing. So some of us used to don that hat. We used to go there and take classes whenever we used to go there. So that was a very early stage. But when we realized the power of the internet and the store and forward model, then what we realized was that we will have to create content and store them and ensure that it repeat uses there. So that way we're able to manage this shortage of talent, because, for example, in voice, if you were to do an accent neutralization, even in urban centers, their calendar will be full for next 6 months. Even without your boss's pressure, you can't even get them to come to your own team. So for them to travel to a rural area was almost a no-no. So that's when we were forced to look at content, alternate content, and we used to have recorded conversations. We used to have learning sessions, which we got from our clients. So some of these constraints were overcome in the initial stage. But the key thing, which remains even now as a challenge, not just for DesiCrew, I think for the entire industry, is how do you bind the learner and what is getting learned, because it keeps changing. The business model changes, the customers change, and the process requirement also change. So to keep up with that, you need to have a real strong and open mind, which we are very fortunate to have. Like the same center, most of the teams are still there, but probably they've done about 8 or 10 different processes in the last 10 years. So every time is a start stop button, and they have unlimited appetite to learn and skill themselves. So now this is something which is not very natural from at least some of the clients we are looking at them. It's not something which comes natural to many organizations. So this learning desire or hunger to grow
Yeah.
is part of our DNA as well, and that helps us to learn even new skills. Today, we are on par with any of the IT BPM industry in terms of the AML skills. So data engineering, data science. In fact, now I'm talking to you from a small town called Kadalur, and I was surprised to see an ad which says data science courses. So I said, okay, maybe market is already reached. It's just the rest of the ecosystem have to gear up. So
Yeah.
that's how we.
I mean, so many things to unpack in all of that you said. It's so. I feel very inspired to hear stories where you know basically when businesses create access for people to maximize their potential. There's nothing more beautiful than that, right? Because I mean, human beings are naturally, inclined to do well if they get the right ingredients. They want to succeed. They want to create an impact, and companies or individuals which are able to do this. It's so amazing to hear. It's very inspiring. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I became an entrepreneur is to learn new things. So the desire to learn is very, I think, core to all of us as human beings and people and in companies who are able to unlock it by creating the right environment and the right methodologies. I think those are huge successes in themselves. The other thing which I found interesting was the fact that the constraint that you guys had at the beginning, where you talk about the geography being a difficult one to to manage, your trainers to have to travel all the way, and that it seems as if that constraint actually set you on the path to be ahead of the curve in terms of exploring digital solutions. And today everybody's doing it. There is a huge digital skilling ecosystem in India and across the world, and you guys were ahead of the curve because it was a constraint that you had at that time, which really forced you to look. elsewhere. And that's the case with I think a lot of entrepreneurs who start with a purpose. The purpose means that they are changing something in the status quo, which means there is a constraint, but they find alternate solutions, and that becomes soon a strength. So yeah, there's so many things to take away from your journey. It's amazing. Um, tell us a little bit about, or maybe tell us your thoughts on, if an entrepreneur today is to undertake, is to want to work with rural communities as part of their initiative, or wants to get into skilling. What are some of the things that they should keep in mind?
I think the first thing I want everyone to keep in mind is that the potential is unlimited, literally unlimited, unmeasured, I would say, because most of the stats which we create in this country, when we look at the numbers, everything is very different when you look at from the other side, right? Like I already mentioned about the census data about the graduates and all of that. If you look at some of the other countries and even smaller than us, I can name the country. So we've been associated with Kenya. There was an opportunity to collaborate with the government there. So we had taken a trip there, understood what they're trying to do. Now, the kind of statement the nation is making, for example, they're saying that in the crowdsourcing platform, Kenyans are already in top 10 in terms of number of people who are taking up these jobs and delivering, right? Now, the country is weaving a program saying that why can't we move from 10 to rank 5? And how do we do that? So obviously it can't be one DesiCrew or somebody private sector model. So they're also looking at nationwide launch, creating capacities, creating centers, skilling them. And then our engagement was trying to find out, okay, you can skill them, but what are they going to do after the skilling? Because they can't wait forever for businesses to flow in, right? So that's when they were very creative. So they said, in the courts, in the judicial system, right? So we all know the judicial records means what it means. Even in India, all of us know. So they said, okay, let's fast forward that. Whatever has happened in the past, we'll digitize, get them onto the board. That itself could be a digital opportunity of somebody, but that's going to be limited. What they said instead was, we will now start recording all the happenings, proceedings in the courts and transcribe them and use the skills which are available for, because transcription is one of the skills on demand even on the crowdsourcing model. So they just
Right.
beautifully match the found the purpose. Like you said, the government said, okay, judicial guys will be the first people, then the IT team is creating these centers, and they were looking at knowledge partners, and they came to us because they were not sure how to break this into unit jobs and ensure that productivity and quality is measured and people are skilled. So it's very impressive what they wanted to do, and they were not hesitating go and find out the solutions elsewhere and try to implement. So given our size and our scale, we are yet to look forward these kind of bold statements from the ecosystem. I'm not blaming any single entity here, though we have national level scale in terms of skilling and even the BPO creation. But if Kenya is saying 1 million jobs, are we even saying that anywhere in our numbers is an open question. I leave that for the entrepreneurs to answer. So that's the first thing I would like to say about the opportunity which exists in this space.
Yeah.
And the
Wow.
second thing is, it is a lot more easier today. Like you said, the barrier of rural and the geography is not there, thanks to the connectivity and the smartphones and 5G and whatnot. So today you are hard pressed to come up with solutions to address all these gaps, because earlier it was very clear. I used to work for a non-profit. My only criteria in recruiting from the B schools and everywhere was whether the graduates or the pass outs have ever traveled in a train and are they willing to travel by train in India. Surprisingly, 95% will reject the offer just by that condition, right? I didn't even mention whether it's going to be AC coach or sleeper coach. I mean, if you're not got there, I think they would have thrown me out. But that's the mindset which we had because of the geographical isolation. Now that's gone, right? Today, you just keep counting the number of cities, towns, villages. You can create a market, and I think some of these D2C brands in India, if you look at their growth in terms of number of customers and the reach which they're able to do, they've done very quietly. Gartner is not looking at them right now, but they have scaled. So I think the barrier of geography is being broken with technology. I think if these
Yeah.
two, then I don't want to teach anything to anyone. They can make out their products and services to manage this.
Wonderful. This actually brings me to another question. So, do you see that your focus on, say, rural populations or tier two, tier three populations, does it give you an advantage as well in terms of, in terms of what they bring uniquely to the table?
Yes. See, initially, if you look at outsourcing, right? Outsourcing works on the cost arbitrage as one of the primary drivers. But globally, the customers and the service providers realize that cost arbitrage is not going to be the sole driver, because then you're going to lose out in like any other market. So a lot of thought and new ideas have come in terms of trying to take the customer risks into your profile and sharing the risk with the customers. So that's something which is emerging in the market. And the other thing which is coming also is combination of IT and BPM and all these names, because right now it's digital. So when you say digital, you don't really say it's an IT product or a IBPM service. Most of the AML world have seamlessly combined both the ideas. So coding has become no code, and some of the data cleaning and data preparation has started using technology. So the line between the IT and the BPM and any other skills which we had in the market is already gone, or is evolving very, very fast, right? So in that segment, what is your advantage then? Is geography or rural or the first generation learners are going to be a key advantage? We're not very sure. There will be a certain advantage in terms of the soft side of it, the stability of the workforce. Like I said earlier, we have single digit attrition in our payroll because people like this idea and they've grown with the organization. So that could be an advantage, tangible advantage for people when the entire world
Yeah.
is moving, right? But more than that, going global, today the demand is getting generated, let's say North America or Europe, right? And the work is getting done in almost everywhere, whether it's Africa or Philippines, India. So the ability to compete across the supply chain and ability to service customers across geographies with skill sets is probably the key learning for us. And that's where our people matter, because they've already gone through this multiple time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So for
Yeah.
them, it's just one more level of change, not
Yeah.
that entire change in their work perspective.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a
Oh,
clear.
wonderful. Yeah. That's a great takeaway, because yeah, even I was thinking that you guys have already built that DNA in your organization of the whole aspect of being able to surmount geography. Geography is not a word in your equation at all, and things that when I hear you speak, it makes me feel that it's added so much intangible, perhaps intangible value in terms of the DNA of learning that you spoke about earlier. The fact that you are your entire company is geared towards looking forward and changing processes and being very learning friendly. All of those things are competitive advantages which perhaps have come from the very basic foundation or premise of what you are trying to solve in the first place or trying to create in the first place. And you guys are fully remote yourself, or partly remote, is how I understand it. Your own company, and the
No,
the organization.
at the stroke of the clock on March 20, I think everyone vanished. So we also vanished, and then we recovered, recouped. And just imagine the hardship, because even in urban cities, I knew companies had to take special permission, fly out special jets to deliver laptops and all of that to their work home. And in our scenarios, the supplies were not even existing. Nobody was even prepared for a stocking additional desktop or a laptop or a mouse and so on and so forth. So we had to, as usual, find our own solution. So we had almost disbanded our physical centers. Instead of carrying laptop, we had to actually carry the desktop and give it to the home. So that's how the initial thing was met. But later on, when we improved, the things improved, we have now have the hybrid model. So we work from the centers. And personally, if you ask me, I would want to work want everyone to come back to the center. That's not my choice anymore, or it's not only my choice anymore. So we are obviously doing hybrid at this point in time.
Okay, okay, got it. And of course, it's of special interest to us and to me that 70% of your workforce is women, and you also have people from FlexiBees as well. So how has that experience been?
Yes, I think, like I said, we have been doing this for almost what 12, 13 years now, and what we have seen is a remarkable resilience in terms of the workforce and stability, of course, and the interest to learn new things. I think these are some of the very positive things which we have observed. But more importantly, given the leadership paucity, because we were talking about remote locations earlier, not yet virtual. So many of the leadership roles were done by women folks. So that has proved to be a game changer for us, because it is not possible to do a remote control with this kind of a distance. So people have to evolve, and they will take responsibility. I clearly remember there's an instance when the coastal storm was there, the centers were down, and we in Chennai were cut off. So nobody could even reach out to say, hey, please come and do the work, because client has to be waiting. But a lot of people took everything on their own hands. They even found the person who will climb the pole to set right the telecom infrastructure there. They mobilized the other people in terms of food, travel, and everything. And when the work opened in Bombay, we were working as if nothing happened in our place, notwithstanding some. But the thing is, we didn't know that the management team and none of us knew. The clients were telling us later saying that we never had any disruption. So I think there was innumerable example on the floor where the women folks have done fantastic job. And when we started working at FlexiBees, one of the things which we're looking at is the leadership at the middle level, because our core model is to create opportunities for the entry level folks. Even today, bulk of my work will be getting done by those teams, and that's where the bulk of the recruitment also would happen. But as we grow in size, we need people who are aligned with the values of the organization, who understand what we're trying to do, and put their professional skills towards this objective. I think that's where we are very happy with FlexiBees, because we got access to some super good talent who were very good in what they were doing, and probably they had to take a break for their own personal reasons or other reasons. Now they saw an opportunity saying that, hey, I like this idea. Can I also put something into this? And whether it is sales, whether it is delivery, all of this, we've had a wonderful example with the FlexiBees team. Like probably the gender plays a role, but I don't want to take a call on that right now. But it is certainly an enjoyable experience.
Wonderful. That's so heartening to hear. And yeah, I mean, I also don't know about gender per se, but I think for us too, it is the same that there is a bit of a constraint that this pool has. They have been outside of the workforce for some time, and that makes them very keen, very eager to come back and contribute. So they have very good work ethic. From what I mean, it's almost like tooting your own horn, but I feel justified in doing it because day in and day out when we speak to these women, that their stories are so inspiring. These are women who have grown up with ambition, who have honed their skills in a corporate environment, who have that work ethic and that professionalism, and now because of that lack of opportunity, they were not able to realize that potential. They are coming back with so much fire in their belly to be able to contribute. So I think yeah, it's really it's really heartening to hear this validation from you, because at the end of the day, like you said, what the client feels is important, and it's crucial to ensure that it's sustainable and it goes on on
Yeah,
its
so I
own.
just want to
Thank you for
point out one quick thing, Shreya, in this regard. See, typically when someone says, "I will give you part-time solutions for people who can do 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day," the assumption is that the work would be at the convenience of the people who are coming. But what we found in FlexiBees was that is not the case. For example, we have clients across the globe right now, so which means their time schedule is like the work schedule. So you need to follow UK time, you need to follow UK time, right? But people are very happy to do that. So which is not something which I've experienced in the market, because especially the segment what you said that you want to take a little a break, they will also say, okay, I can only do from X to Y because I have certain things to take care. So there are some people who are doing that, but we are pleasantly surprised that many of our team members whom we are working with in FlexiBee said absolutely fine with what is being expected from the client. What I am saying is I can't do 15 hours a day, but I can certainly do a 5 hours extremely well, which is fantastic
Yeah.
because I think the conversation moved to quality now by default,
Yeah.
which is fantastic for everybody.
Thank you so much. And here I feel compelled to say that, this is something that we focused on, very, very, intentionally. The fact that we want to make sure that we are matching the roles to the life stage of the candidates who come in. So we, understand what is the requirement of the client in terms of even number of hours or even time slots, because there are clients like you where they are catering to an international audience, and there are time slot differences. So we make sure we understand those things and we match it to the candidates life stage needs. And that's so important on both ends, because exactly what you said is it results in that those sort of experiences for our clients, and equally for the candidates as well. It gives them the ability to truly balance both aspects of their lives. They are not running from pillar to post, trying to overlap, or trying somehow to scramble and make sure that both these things are happening. But they have clear availability. They have a clear, say, an unblocked mindset. And of course, they come with their own professionalism and their own commitment and their own keenness to deliver. And that combination is what really works for our clients. Since you said that, I felt like since we do intentionally focus a lot on it. Yeah. Okay.
Sure, sure.
Tell us a little bit about what next for DesiCrew. What's on the cards?
Yeah, so like you said, none of the entrepreneurial journey is a straight line. So it's going to be obviously with multiple twists and turns and an upward slope, hopefully. So today, when we look at the opportunities in the market, due to COVID, a lot of changes have happened on the way customers consume these services. So what we realize is that from a sales perspective, there are a lot of customers who are already making decisions about you without you being not even aware of this, because it's not that you are doing a traditional. Of course the traditional trade sales cycle still works, but the customers have gone a little bit more creative. They are able to determine what they want, and then it's a question of whether you have the willingness and capability to deliver what they want. So in such a scenario, so it is important for us to have ambition even higher than what we already had. So because initially we were thinking about pan India and having a presence in every state and all of that. Then we realized that if you also want to marry that with international clients, so half the people don't even know where is Tamil Nadu and what's Karnataka. So we said that's not something which we can marry in the way we wanted, but the opportunities are unfolding in that area. For example, today there's a whole lot of demand for linguistic services in all 22 languages of India. Government of India is pushing hard with their own agenda. A lot of multinational big firms are investing in language specific solutions, and fortunately, this can be delivered only by people who are there. I want something to be done in
Yeah.
Korea. I can't do it from Delhi. Earlier, the call
Yeah.
center model people used to hire in Bangalore who will speak Telugu. Now, if you're doing a translation or a natural language services or even transcription in your own mother tongue, you just can't do it in urban anymore. So the market is lending an opportunity here to the
Yeah.
scale, though in a slightly different direction. And globally, it's a skill set game right now. So everywhere we see the clients, they're not discussing prices anymore. They're only discussing the scale and the quality. which is a huge opportunity for DesiCrew. And I'm sure we'll be able to leverage what we have built so far. And with a lot of youngsters coming in, joining right now, let's say last couple of years, they see a completely different DesiCrew. So they are already, we look like old people. Of course, we are old, but they're already defining the new DesiCrew, which will be the way forward.
Wonderful. I mean, I always thought DesiCrew was a very cool and modern name. And I definitely don't have the perception that any of you are old or your company is, it seems like a very modern and cool place to be.
No,
So
that is
great. I mean, yeah, what you said in terms of the linguistic piece and the opportunities it's creating, it's another beautiful example of purpose creating opportunities and competitive advantage for you, really. Very, very heartening to see. So, okay, I think we can now look at questions. We have there are a lot of people, I think, who are wishing you a good afternoon and a happy afternoon. And we have a question from Sanjana. Should more companies think about establishing offices in rural areas henceforth?
Yeah, it's not should. I think it's already happening. A lot of our customers are exploring this very actively, especially with the talent going back to where they came from. So now the industry is following the lead. So most of the companies, especially in the IT BPM sector, are now actively thinking, how do we leverage the tier two, tier three network? A lot of state governments are working on it. I'm part of NASCOM. We are also trying to evolve methods and policies to expand this model. Yes, it is already happening. It's not the question of should. I think it's a matter of time now.
So they definitely should, because it's something that the companies need to do in order to have the right supply chain, in order to tap the right pools, in order to have the right opportunities.
So
Great.
now, if you to look beyond the ADBPM sector, how to get some of the other ecosystem to come in, probably will decide how far we can scale. Because one of the challenges is also going to be that yes, you can do electronic jobs, but if you were to do a good school, so you can't say that virtual school, I'll take it and put it in that model. So the good thing is that industry is seriously looking at the tier two, tier three models, and governments are also very keen, and the private sector is probably going to be seeing their action in very soon in these areas.
Wonderful. Much needed in India today. It's been great talking to you, Mani. And I think this conversation has been very rich for me personally, and I'm sure for our listeners as well. Um, it's not often that you get to see a company that is doing so well and is also doing good with it. So I think that's a great combination and more of what we need in the world. Thank you so much for taking the time out and coming on this webinar. Looking
Thank
forward
you,
to stay.
Shreya. Yeah, it's nice chatting with you, and it's also an opportunity for us to talk about the skilling perspective we had. Though we may not have created these models which can be immediately deployed elsewhere, but the thought behind it and the success we've managed to achieve, I think it's pretty good for people to learn, observe, and replicate even better than what we've done.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for coming to the webinar. I hope you had an enriching time. I certainly did.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.